Hello, hi everyone. Welcome to the OurCiy 2030 LinkedIn Lives. Um, I'm your host today. My name is Caroline, and today I'm joined by Sam from Arab, and we have a very wonderful topic today, which is how can businesses be a force for good. Just before we begin, I'd like to give you a brief background into the OurCiy 2030 program, which Arab is our core partner. This is a very big mission that we have, which is to get 2,000 young people from underserved neighborhoods within Bristol into meaningful jobs by 2030. And it's been a very big ambition that, you know, we wouldn't it wouldn't be possible for us to actualize this without the support of our core partners. If you'd like to know more about this very ambitious goal that we have, please visit the OurCiy2030.com. And if you want to know more about Babasa, just head over to babasa.com. The link is in the little trailer that's going through the live. And without further ado, let's begin. Hi, Sam. How are you? Sorry, I think there's a bit of a lag. Sam, can you hear me? Sam?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, great. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I wanted to give a brief intro. Just let us know who you are.
There we go.
Yeah.
Great, fantastic. Sorry about that. Internet problems to start with. Hi, I'm Sam. I am Arab's social value manager for our Midwest region. So I'm based in Bristol, but we cover Cardiff, Birmingham, and Nottingham in my role as well. And I've been working at Arab for the last 3 years.
Right. Thank you very much. I can see there's a problem with our LinkedIn. Let me just see what the problem is. Okay. I'm going to edit that. Going to see the changes. I think we're just going to have to go ahead. I don't know what the problem is. For some reason, it doesn't seem to be showing on the events page. Let me just see what I can do. But just as we begin, can you just share a little bit about your background? What was your very first job, and how did you find yourself in social value?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my very, very first job was washing dishes in a cafe in Bournemouth, but that was a long time ago now when I was 14. My first kind of job in my career, I guess, was working as an organizer of a citywide event in Bristol in 2018, where I kind of worked with a variety of different charities around the city for a kind of week of volunteering. Which brought together lots of different community groups and organisations, which is fantastic. It was really good fun. I was straight out of uni and I wasn't really sure what I was doing, but it was really enjoyable, and kind of found myself working through the charity sector, working for different churches, and then eventually a kind of real left turn ended up working for Arab. Kind of found myself taking on this social value manager role at Arab, having been in the charity sector for a while. Suddenly found myself in the corporate world, which was a big change, but a really good one as well. I'm sorry, Caroline, I can't hear you. I think you might be muted.
Sorry. Would you say that getting into this specific role was? Did you have a direct path to it? Did you have the network did you have any people that kind of guided you into this position?
No, I knew that I wanted to kind of branch out my experiences. So I felt that I've been learning a lot working in the areas that I've been working, but they'd always been for quite small organizations, and I felt like there would be a benefit, as well as having worked in that context, to work in a larger organization as well, where I could kind of develop some new skills. And so I spoke to the people that I knew in that world, and they kind of kept suggesting that I talk to this person, and they suggested that I talk to this person. And so I just kept taking the next cup of coffee, and eventually kind of found myself being suggested for a role that was very different from what I'd ever kind of imagined myself doing, but actually was kind of a perfect fit for where I was at that time, and it's been a really good experience up to this point. Oh, sorry, you're on mute again.
Sorry about that. A lot of young people do mention and have specifically said that having the right network is a huge barrier to getting into this type of roles, and even just mapping out a career, in a certain sector. And I know working with you guys has been really pivotal and has shaped some careers for some young people. And some young people have said, it's not for me. I'd rather just go and do something very different.
Mm.
But social value as um, a new area in business seems to have emerged after corporate social responsibility. I
Mm.
think I recall the CSR time, and
Yeah.
then we have the ESG, the environmental, social, and governance, and then there's
Mm.
social value. And so, where does social value fit in these two, or is it part of like a trifecta?
Yeah. Yeah, so they're related. They're very similar, but slightly different, as you say. Kind of CSR came. We started a while ago thinking about our corporate social responsibility and what businesses should be doing. Um, I like to think of it as this: the CSR and ESG. They're uh, acronyms that are more about mitigating the harm that businesses do, and making sure that their kind of businesses are doing the minimum standard, and making sure that we're meeting certain reporting kind of criteria, and that each business is doing enough, um, which is great and really, really important. And we see all the time the challenges that we have if businesses aren't meeting those standards. The social value is a slightly more proactive side of that coin, I think. So it's not just about mitigating the harm, but it's about proactively trying to create good in society as well. So our kind of definition at Arup of social value is that it's how within and through communities we create greater quality of life for individuals and communities, looking at equality and justice. And that is and that's not just kind of saying, well, we won't do any harm, but it's saying that we as a business have a role to play to actually be a force for good and to create good. And we do that through our projects. So when our transport engineers design a new train station, they create value for that society and for those communities by creating better transport connections. But we can also take proactive steps beyond that. So we could decide that we're going to design that station in a really inclusive way, that we're going to use local people, that we're going to work with diverse organizations to kind of help build that or to maintain it, and take active steps to increase that level of value for that community that we're delivering. Or what we see a lot, and what is kind of seen as social value a lot in the world at the moment, is kind of additional stuff that we do that goes beyond our projects. So that's, who do we hire? How do we kind of recruit young people? What are we just going to the same places, or are we looking for a diverse talent pool? Are we engaging in local communities? Are we working with charities and community groups? Are we investing in the next generation, in their skills, and going into schools or mentoring young people? And there's a whole load of things that actually we as businesses are able to do to not just mitigate harm, which is really important, but also to create positive social value and to improve that quality of life. So that's kind of, you may hear social value bandied around a lot. It's a very popular term. That's kind of our definition. And that's kind of what a lot of my role looks to do, is to make sure that we as Arup and all of our members are kind of proactively playing our part in doing that.
Great. So our next question is going to be around, the current business environment. What's been happening in your sector? Have you been feeling the pains post-COVID? And how has that affected social value or improved social value? But just before we answer that question, I just want to apologize to anyone joining us on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn deleted the live link, so I've had to kind of redo it. And you missed the best part of the live, which was Sam giving us a brief into his career journey, but we'll recount that maybe towards the end. But just coming on to the next question, I think we've seen a lot of businesses struggling, especially post-COVID, and I think the business rise hasn't been as predicted. It's sort of taking a lot longer post-COVID to get back to the way it was. And from our end at Babasa, what that has meant is recruitment has sort of declined for younger people. There are fewer entry-level roles, and that's generally affected the demographic of young people that we work with. How would you say this has affected the built environment, if at all, and has it affected social value?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. We work in the built environment, which means that a lot of our work comes because government or other clients are investing into that built environment, building new infrastructure, investing into regenerating communities, that sort of thing. And one of the things that drops in times of uncertainty and turmoil is that certainty that we should be investing into these projects. So certainly, and that then impacts us as a business. But that's a different question from, does that mean that we have less impact on social value? It's true that sometimes if when businesses in general go through times of challenge, then one of the first things that you can do is to kind of say all that extra stuff that we do, we're not going to do anymore, and we're just going to focus on the things that make us money. But that's a question of what you value and what you prioritize. I'm really fortunate, actually, to be honest with you, working for Arup, that as a company and the leaders that I work with think that this is important, think that the impact that we have in communities is important, and put the money where their mouth is, and make sure that although every business has to go through, you have to make hard decisions, that actually we really value the work that we're doing in the communities that we work in. So it has impacted, and certainly I can imagine, and I know for a lot of young people coming into the workforce today, it's difficult when it's an uncertain workforce. But from the business side, and from my perspective, if social value and being a force for good in your community is something that is important to you, then even in difficult times, we should be able to find a way to make that a priority. And I see that in our business for sure.
I think one of the key issues that emerged when we were doing the built environment pathway was how to communicate with the senior leaders. And I felt there was quite a bit of a struggle in terms of, we see, what Babasa is doing and what these pathways are building, but it's a huge struggle to get that expenditure signed off. So what do you think is the role of leadership in terms of leading social value and social mobility, not with just what they say, but with actions?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, that is the challenge of being a leader, is that you have to make decisions. And I'm sure every leader wishes that they could sign off on everything that comes across their desk, but they have to decide. And it's often between one thing or another, and it's often between things of competing interest. And that's the challenge. For me, from my perspective, it's about telling that story. So one of the things that I try and do in my role is almost translate my experiences of working with young people and my experiences of the challenges that young people face, and translate that into the corporate environment and make sure that the leaders who I know care about these issues, that they're able to understand what that looks like in their context in Bristol, or in Cardiff, or Birmingham and Nottingham. And so it's making it clear that we know that you care about these issues, but here's how we can translate that into language that kind of that you understand. That so that might be, for example, you know, charities often, that one of the challenges around some of these amazing programs is finding the funding,
Yeah.
and funding is a challenge for a big company because everybody wants funding. Actually, it's trying to think about what the language of a lot of our leaders will be about investment, will
Yeah.
be what's an investment that we can make. What is that? What's the return going to be? What are we going to see as a business in terms of how many young people could we expect to access opportunities? What are we going to see on that return of investment in terms of the change in our city? What can we tangibly expect to see in 10 years' time if we make this investment now? And so it's things like that that actually, coming from the charity world, I was very used to asking for funding, and I was used to writing grant applications and that sort of thing, whereas actually translating that into the language of kind of the corporate space, where it might be more about investment, or it might be more about making a business case and saying here's the facts, but also telling that story. Here's the young people that we meet. Here's their story of where they've come from. Here's the challenges that they've faced to get to this point, and the things they're doing to overcome the hurdles that they face.
Okay. Um, so I know Arab does a lot within the Bristol community. So whether that's with education partners, with community groups, with organizations such as Babasa, just from your experience, has there been any project that you felt really proud of,
Mm.
just from the impact and how it personally affected you?
Yeah, definitely. It's been fantastic living in Bristol, being someone who's proud to be from Bristol, to be able to kind of look at some of the work that we've done in the communities that I live in. Um, Certainly the work with Babassa has been fantastic, and seeing, working alongside young people that have come through Babassa and sitting next to them in the office is is great. I'd like to probably, one project really proud of is a program we run with Norwest Media Centre in Norwest, and
Okay.
that's a program we developed as part of our some of the regeneration projects, capital investment projects we call them, that we're doing in Bristol. Um,
Okay.
and that allowed us to kind of set out a 7-year vision of what we wanted to do with them, which kind of gives a really nice long kind of runway of, what we're going to do to make a difference over that time. So kind of having that buy-in with them, working across Bristol, was really good for us, and to be able to bring our real life projects that we're doing to life for those young people, to get them to be working on, getting them to inputting into the projects that our engineers and designers are actually working on in their city in real time has been really good.
And just to pull you back just slightly, so when you were working in the charity sector, were you working with young people or were you doing something slightly different?
Yes. I was mostly working with university students, but
Okay.
working with young people as well. So working with teenagers as well, and then we kind of ran some volunteering programs with primary school students as well. So a kind of mix from most of my time spent with university students, but also right the way down primary school and secondary school students as well. So that had a lot of opportunity to spend a lot of time with young people from all across our city.
Okay. I think we've just concluded you know, the cohort for this year's summer internships. And I think when I started with Babasa, I was a recruitment lead, and so I supported with that. And I found that the young people, you know, were really appreciative of the opportunity, and just to be thrust into that corporate environment and to realize that, you know, there's certain theories about what the design sector will be like or the construction sector will be like, especially for our young people. Some of them think, I don't want to go to a construction site, but that's not the type of work that it is. I think demystifying, what a large organization such as yourself does. I think it's part of what we're trying to do. But I'd just like to get to know more about what Arab is doing to kind of make what you do a little bit easier and a little bit digestible for the young people.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the main things we try and do. I've never set foot on a construction site, and I might never. I would love to, but my days mostly spent with computers and in meetings and working with people. But yeah, so we do quite a lot to try and give an insight, because even when I was interviewing for the job with Arab, I didn't really know what they did, and it is quite hard
Okay.
sometimes to understand what do these big companies actually do? What does it look like? So we have kind of a work experience program that we run for year 10 and some sixth form students. We've run
Okay.
Insight Days with you at Vavassa, which I know some of the young people that came to Insight Days have now gone on to do internships with us. And then we've been working with yourself to recruit for our summer placements, which are for university students, but a great opportunity to kind of experience firsthand what it's like to work at Arup. But I would also say, one of the main things I encourage people to is just to always ask people, what does your career look like, and what does a day in the life look like for you? Because it's one of the great things for me working at Arup is I get to sit with, learn from, hear conversations from people doing so many different types of professions, from designers and architects to engineers and economists and consultants, and just to hear what they're up to and to kind of learn why they're interested in their jobs is one of the best bits of my job. So I encourage people to do that whenever you get the chance.
Yeah. I think sort of like the insight days or the spotlight sessions that we do really encourage the young people to be open-minded, um, and just to see how broad, the spectrum is for the type of work that you could do in an organization. I always say, in every organization, you have an operations person, you have HR, you have IT, you have, if it's engineers or technical people. So it's not just what the organization says it does. There's
Mm.
so many people that come together just to make it all work perfectly. And I think just being open-minded and
Yeah.
seeing what you could achieve, and we have some young people
Yeah.
who say, I think something our CEO always says, at 19 your imagination is quite limited to what you consume. So he mentioned that at 19 he wanted to be Jay-Z, and it was a good ambition. At the end of the day, he ended up choosing a very different career path, but he was open. He was open to see like what happens in this organization and what happens in the other organization.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for businesses that are trying to get social value rights or trying to implement, social value and social mobility within their
Mm.
organization? What sort of advice would you have for those type of organizations?
Yeah, I mean, my first advice is always to talk to people who are working on the ground, so local partners. So try and leave the office that you're working in and go and meet local organisations and local partners, and then listen to what they say and to what their experience is. Um, I'm very aware that Arup has a lot of expertise in a whole range of different things, but we're not experts in social mobility, and we're not experts in youth empowerment. We're not experts in supporting people from diverse backgrounds, and we're not experts in a whole range of things that contribute to creating social impact. And so we want to talk to the experts and to people who are actually um, have a lived experience as well of that. So trying to make time to listen, and kind of leaving that corporate space and going and actually being in the communities would be a starting point for sure. And so giving time, I know, whether that's your leaders going and spending a day with a local charity and seeing life through their eyes, or whether that's your social value CSR person actually going in and meeting with local partners. I think having those really strong relationships with the people that are in communities and know and love and know and understand what the communities need is the most important starting point. And I think that's something that I see missing a lot in the corporate world, is that we approach some of these issues the same way we approach any other project, which is we have a set of deliverables that we want to achieve. We have a set of targets that we want to hit. We have numbers that we want to meet. And actually, we're starting from that point rather than asking the question, what do communities need? How can we serve the places that we're working in? And also, what is the outcome that we could have here? What difference could we make if we work with the right people, and kind of bring our skills and investment in there? And so that would be my starting point, is try not to start with the numbers and the deliverables. Try to start with the needs locally, the people who are working on the ground, and then the outcomes that you think you can achieve together.
I think that's really a really important point that you made. I'm going to give you an example of a client who reached out to us from London. And I think they'd written some social value project into a bid. And they reached out to Babasa with a very specific ask. They wanted to do something with young people of in a very specific postcode. And they wanted to do it in a very specific way. And I found that really frustrating, because young people just don't work like that. And especially the current generation, you just don't expect them to turn out. You really have to show them the value of participating in the program. And it was very frustrating. And as much as I did want to assist them, I couldn't deliver this project for them in that specific postcode and in the specific way they wanted it delivered. And so, as you say, organizations need to understand, for example, if it's Bristol, what is a young person in Bristol interested in? What are their key interests? What are their key pain points? And where can I meet them?
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think understanding our place in that as well as businesses, what we can do and what we can't do, and recognizing one of the things that we're definitely not is youth workers. And so if a youth empowerment charity tells us that if you want to run a workshop to look at your design plans, then just rocking up at a youth club with a PowerPoint presentation isn't going to do it. We need to think outside the box here, then listening to that. But also, one thing that I think is really important that we understand is that we pay, across our business, we pay experts as suppliers and subcontractors to provide us an expert service. And we need to treat the local charity partners that we're working with in the same way. So it's not expecting that we're doing, as businesses, doing you a favor. It's actually understanding that this is a partnership, and just as we partner with a local firm to deliver this survey or to complete these drawings, that we're partnering with you to deliver a social value program, and that there's if we're getting expertise, then we should at least expect that we might have to pay for expertise as well. I think that's probably something that is taking a while for businesses to understand, and it is a challenge, but something that I think would make a big difference to how we view social value and how we view working in partnership with local charities.
Okay. We're coming to almost to the end of the live. And just because we had some technical challenges, so LinkedIn killed our link and I had to kind of reset it. I just want the audience to get to know you a little bit better. You can tell us about your career ambitions. Did you want to be an X-Men?
Was that well? Obviously, I wanted to be a footballer.
Okay.
Then I think I might have wanted to be a politician for a while until I understood what that involved. Um, and actually I've I went through, I wanted to be a teacher, I think, for a bit. I think my approach, my career, I kind of started off working in kind of organizing community events to get people kind of engaged and volunteering in their community. I worked for in the charity sector with charities and with churches, um, and really enjoyed those experiences. Kind of got to learn about leadership and setting strategy and working with people and how to communicate with people. But I never I haven't necessarily got um, an end goal in mind of this is where I want to be. For me, it's more about kind of what opportunities are coming up and what can I learn from those opportunities. And that's how I ended up in the role I am in now, that the opportunity came up, and actually recognizing that although it's not, if you had told me 10 years ago that this is where I'd be, I wouldn't have planned it. There's so many opportunities for me to learn, and there's so many opportunities for me to kind of gain experiences that I never thought I'd have. So it hasn't been planned out to kind of land here as a social value manager for Arup, but it's something that I can see the links in the skills that I'm building, even if the jumps have been quite big from sector to sector. And I can also see the opportunities that are kind of presented by the role that I'm doing, and that ability to kind of develop those skills further has been really fun.
Okay. I have just two more questions.
Yeah.
I'm just going to give you a scenario. I am working in retail right now, and I've seen this interview, or Akira has sent me this interview, and I'm curious about working with Arab. Since I come from a non-traditional background, is there an opportunity for me to get into this industry?
Definitely, and I think there's absolutely there's opportunities in lots of different ways, and one of the challenges with the kind of professional services work that we do is that that it is a challenge to enter the workforce without qualifications, but it's not impossible. And so, for example, it may be that you talk to someone at Arup and ask if you could come into the office and have a cup of coffee with someone at Arup, and it might open doors to perhaps do an apprenticeship with Arup, and that's an opportunity to learn while you're working on a job, and kind of actually be getting qualifications that you would eventually need to have a career working in a kind of specialized discipline at Arup, but at the same time you don't have to kind of walk in having done 5 years at university or something like that. So I think there are opportunities. I appreciate that it's really challenging and it can be quite daunting. I think trying to find someone to talk to, and I know networks are really difficult, but if there's opportunities with Babasa or others to meet businesses and people from those businesses, then that's the best starting point, and they can help open doors for you, even if that's just a conversation about what might be possible. But certainly, it's something that I think I would say it's something that businesses like ours are really aware of and recognize that we would love to do better. And so it's not that you're not wanted, and it's not that you're not good enough and that you don't fit the bill. It's that we're also working out how to make space for people from different backgrounds as well, and to give opportunities to people from a variety of backgrounds. And I get told by people that are recruiting all the time that they wish that they saw they wish they just saw a CV that looked a little different, or they had a conversation with someone who had a different life experience, because that makes us a lot richer. So yeah, I might not be able to give a definite pathway right now to that person working in retail, but I guess that would be my encouragement, and to know that our experience has been that whenever we have people that come from non-traditional backgrounds, they bring a lot to organizations like ours, and they're really, really valued. But that challenge is for all of us, how do we get you in the door? And it's something that we're working on for sure.
Okay. So you mentioned that you do some year 10 work experiences.
Yes,
So there is some sort of structured way for people to get engaged with Arab. So whether that's a work experience and an internship, sort of the summer internships, or work placements. Is there apprenticeships? Is that something that you guys have?
definitely. So work experience, we normally advertise through the local schools, but
Okay.
you can, if you so that's the main way that we advertise those, but we can send the link to Babasa, for example, so that people are aware of it. With our apprenticeships, our summer placements, and other kind of opportunities to come and work with us for a longer period of time, they always are on our website. So you can find opportunities in Bristol and around the world to do careers, and that will kind of, the website will explain to you what level of qualification you need to apply for those roles. But we have more and more apprentices coming to us straight from college or sixth form, who come and get their qualification with us. So definitely have a look on the website. I think they normally, the applications normally go live in September, October for the following year. So you do have to be fairly quick, but the opportunities are there.
Okay. So for anyone who's watching this show, maybe they're an employer or an organization that are looking to work with young people or looking for a way just to make an impact within the city, what kind of advice would you give them? What would you tell them? Where would you tell them to go? And where would you tell them to look?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is to ask what are we doing ourselves, and understand that. And if you're a leader in a business or organization, asking, that might be a question of understanding what actually are we doing, what's our aims here, what are we hoping to achieve as a business in our communities. If you're a CSR or a social value specialist, then again, there's a question of trying to work out not just what activities are we doing, which we're getting quite good at keeping track of, but actually what's our impact that we're having. So definitely first question to ask that yourselves. I'm always amazed at how little we know about what we're actually trying to achieve and what we're doing. And then, like I said earlier, go and talk to a local partner, go and chat to yourselves at Babasa and find out opportunities to work together. Start exploring some partnerships, because that's where you can really have the long-term difference, in my opinion.
Yeah, amazing. I think you had it here, folks. Find your why and then develop your plan from there. And within Bristol, there's many organizations working with young people, including Babasa. Um, I think we've managed to do quite a lot for young people with Arab as our core partner for our City 2030. They've opened doors to many young people from all over the world. I think that must have been a very interesting journey for you guys. And we look forward to doing even more within the city. This has been a lovely interview. I've learned a little bit about the differences between social value, CSR, and ESG, and just how to see where social mobility falls into all this. And I guess at the end of the day, businesses, well, they're trying to turn a profit. They're trying to build communities and cities that are livable and enjoyable to be in. So a big thank you to you, Sam. Thank you for being a part of this live. I hope you can come back again soon and share more about the summer internships and what's been happening with you guys. As Sam has mentioned, you can visit their website to find out more about the apprenticeships and internships. And the easiest way to get in touch, just get on the phone, ask for a cup of coffee, and yeah, move things along and at least get to learn something about the organization. That will be the end of our live. Anything else to add?
No, thank you for having me. It's been great to reflect on some of the opportunities and challenges, and yeah, thank you to Abassa for being a great partner for us as well, and helping us to work out what we're trying to do, and helping us get there along the way.
I apologize to all our LinkedIn followers. I don't know, LinkedIn is trying to undo us, but we will get this right at some point. Have a lovely afternoon, everyone. Bye.